So the first thing we will do today is generate a random number, an integer, a round number, not a decimal. We then ask the user to guess the number. Okay, so we will give the user a prompt. It's a very classic JavaScript program, guess the number. It's a game. I like it because it allows us to throw in the if statements, the loops, and a bit of mathematics into it. Okay, so once we generate a random number, we ask the user to guess the number, and we are also counting the number of guesses. So every time we ask the user to guess a number, we are setting a count to 1, and next time the user guesses, we are increasing that count by 1. So count plus plus, or count is equal to count plus 1. So try to understand what's happening here. We are generating a random number, we are asking the user, hey, guess a number, and we are keeping a count of it. Okay, this is what happens in game programming. How else does the game know that you are left with 2 lives, 3 lives? It's keeping count. Okay, now when the user gives you an input, check if the number is an integer. Now this is a question that was asked a while back by Lachlan. What if the user keeps on entering a text? So we will now use a loop, which means we will keep on asking the user for an integer, and until the user gives an integer, we will keep on asking. So there's a loop here. So we guess the number, we ask the user for a number, and we do it in a loop. Finally, as long as the number guessed is not equal to the random number generated, as long as it takes. So there's a loop that says while the number guessed is not equal to the random number, we are going to do a few things. Firstly, if the number guessed is higher, we will give the user a hint that please guess lower. If it's lower, we give the user a hint, please guess higher. And every time we ask him to guess again, we increase the counter. Now, if none of this is the case, that means the loop is over. That means the user has actually guessed right. Then we come out of the loop and we just say, you took so many guesses to guess the right number. So let me start by generating this random number. In W3 schools, there is an example here. If you look for math random, it actually has got this script here. Let me show you what this script does. So if I take just the math.random, okay, I'm taking math.random, I'm putting it in a variable random equals math.random, and let me alert it out. Okay, so variable ran is math.random, and if I was to browse it, you can see it gives me a random number. Let me document.write it so I can refresh it. So look at the random number. Okay, the random number is a number between 0 and 1. How many numbers are there between 0 and 1? Infinite. Correct. So it's going to generate a random number for us. Now if I say, if I take this math.random, this is a random number, right? Now if I take that and I apply another math function, math.round, I can round it off. So it will either round off to 0 or 1 because it's between 0 and 1, right? Now the trick is, if you want a random number between 1 and 10, you multiply this by 10. Okay, I'll take this off. You multiply it by 10, and you can see you start getting 0 point something because one decimal goes ahead, right? Now I don't want 0 as a guess. In JavaScript, there are two more methods. One is known as math.floor, goes to the lower decimal integer. Math.ceil, ceiling, goes to the upper integer. So if I've got a number between 0 and 1, I want to go to the higher ones, 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm going to say math.ceiling. You see this? I want to go to the upper number. And you see the 0.1s? I don't want it to go down to 0. say I don't want this to go to 0, I want it to go to 1. So there is a thing called math.ceil. Now this code here, you generate a random number, multiply it by 10, and you say math.ceil, gives you a random number between 1 to 10. Okay, so hopefully this gobbledygook makes sense. So that gives a number between 1 and 100. Let's keep it 1 to 10. So the first thing that I did was I generated a random number. So I might do this in parts. So if you want to just type this up, happy to pause here, and then if you want sort of type this up, and then we'll go further. So I'll make the video in smaller bits and pieces.